It's that time again, folks. It's time for the annual Lord of the Rings is Racist discourse. We have to have this every year because for some reason they just can't get over the fact that people really like Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings wasn't written by a woke twat. Anyway, here's the latest one. Students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive. This is a university course that teaches that Tolkien demonizes people of colour in Lord of the Rings. Well, I mean, maybe if the Easterlings had stopped invading with Sauron, they wouldn't have to be, right? The history module called Decolonizing Tolkien et al., taught at the University of Nottingham, uses a text that says that orcs and other dark-skinned characters are victims of ethnic chauvinism. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like, you know, the orcs rampage around and murder loads of people, and I'm chauvinistic about that. I'm not in favour of rampaging around and murdering a bunch of people. But there's a weird thing, which is kind of like, you know, you are what you react to. And it's like, well, if you felt attacked by that, that's a you thing, isn't it? Because, I mean, like, Dr. Onyeka Nubia, you're going to be shocked to learn he's African, a historian and writer who leads the module, argues that the Eastern races in the fictional realm of Middle-earth are depicted as evil, while fairer-skinned peoples of the West are shown as virtuous. Well, the darker-skinned races in the East are invading the West. They're bringing their giant mammoth elephant things, mumakills I think they're called. They've got hordes of armed warriors, and they're killing and murdering and raping and pillaging and taking over. So, yeah, it's not like there's a reason that they would be doing that, is there? I mean, I don't necessarily think it's because of the colour of their skin. I think it's because of the behaviour that they're engaging in. I think, in fact, Lord of the Rings, they are being judged by the content of their character. Anyway, in a module's core text, Dr. Onyeka writes that malign peoples such as the Easterlings, Southrons, and men from Harad, which they're the poor maligned browns, I guess, in it. But I mean, the Harad are like Arabs, basically. I assume the Southrons are meant to be. I don't know. I didn't think there were any actual blacks in Lord of the Rings. It's been a while since I've read it, so maybe I'm just not remembering. But I didn't think that Africans actually featured in Lord of the Rings. There were, of course, orcs, evil creatures that do the bidding of Sauron. And this is just anti-African antipathy. So, again, it's one of those you are what you respond to circumstances, right? Because I was under the impression, and that's only because, you know, I've read the books and watched the films, that orcs were corrupted elves. So they weren't human to begin with. They were something better than human. And then they were corrupted by the Dark Lord Sauron, or was it Morgoth who did it? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've read Lord of the Rings. But basically, the Sauron or Morgoth corrupted a bunch of elves, and this produces the orcs. And so if you're like, hey, I as an African feel offended by that, it's like, yeah, well, maybe this is about vanity on your part, actually. Like, you're not really a part of this conversation, to be honest. Like, orcs are not humans and never were humans. Africans are humans. So why are you inserting yourself into this conversation, frankly, is the question that I would ask. Again, it seems to be about vanity rather than about what the actual text is representing, just FYI. Anyway, so obviously the module goes on to call everything else racist that's ever been written in the English canon. Shakespeare, blah, blah, blah. Shakespeare promoted a fictional mono-ethnic English past. What, when in the 1500s? When there were basically just English people living in England? Yeah, I suppose. He's missing direct references to Africans living in England, creating the illusion of racial homogeneity in England. My brother in Christ, in 1961, England was 99.9% English. Like, it was literally racially homogenous. That is 0.1%. Don't know what to tell you, bro. I mean, how many Africans, how many Moorish trumpeters do you think Henry VIII had? It's just ridiculous. Anyway, so like I said, this like, we're here watching Lord of the Rings, watching elves and men fight against corrupted elves and necromancers, demons, whatever Sauron bloody well is, Maiar. And this African guy's like, no, I feel represented here. It's like, okay, but why? Are you sure? Is there something you want to tell us? And so obviously they're like, yep, no, Lord of the Rings, evil, bad, something that white people like, in particular English people, therefore it's bad. We're going to have to propagandize their kids that they shouldn't like it, and in fact, if they like it, that's offensive, that's racist, in fact. But the thing is, people really like Lord of the Rings. Back in 2003, it was voted as the top 5 novels of the British public. This is the British public's, Britain's favourite books were Lord of the Rings by Tolkien. And then beat out Pride and Prejudice, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and Harry Potter, as well as His Dark Materials, which I've never read. But I've never read Harry Potter either. But Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is also fantastic. And so you can imagine for 23 years, 22 years now, Lord of the Rings, and I don't think they've done another one of these votes, but I bet it would still win it. I bet Lord of the Rings, if you were to just ask the British public, what is your favourite book? They would still vote for Lord of the Rings because it is timeless. Tolkien thought he was writing a mythology for the English people, and people still love Lord of the Rings because mythologically it is correct. It makes sense to the English. The universe, the moral arc of the universe is divided in such a way, and the heroes win and the villains lose. It just makes sense to us. I don't know how to explain it. But this is not, you'll be shocked to learn, the first time that we have had this conversation. Like I said, this is the annual Lord of the Rings is racist discourse that we have to have. Now, you can go back to 2002 to find an article in The Guardian. Of course, it's in The Guardian about this. And by John Yatt. No idea who he is. But I love this. Perhaps I better just come out and say it. Lord of the Rings is racist. Oh, well, there we go. And the next year, the British public are like, you know what my favourite book is? You know what one of the best films that's ever been made is? The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yeah, remarkable. It is soaked in the logic that race determines behaviour. You notice how their arguments just have never changed. Right? These are all the same arguments and will be the same arguments forever. Orcs are bred to be bad. They have no choice. And the thing is, this is something that Tolkien talks about in his letters. Yes, the orcs are irredeemably evil. They are congenitally, racially evil because Sauron, an evil wizard, or Morgoth, again, I can't remember which one it was, but the evil wizard, or Maiar, or whatever it is, who created them, did it to them. He bred them to be evil. In their nature, in the way that they're constructed, they are constructed to be evil. Now, again, I just want to stress, they're not humans. This is a fantasy world in which non-human races can indeed be made evil. But of course, this is the... was it Saruman? It can't have been Saruman who created them originally. But anyway, I can't remember. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read it. But the point being is that to the liberal, this is basically a heresy, right? It's basically a heresy of their belief that any rational agent can not be persuaded to be good. As in, they can't. You can make the categorical Kantian argument that, well, you wouldn't like being stolen from, therefore we shouldn't steal from one another. And the orc would say, yeah, good point. I agree with you. Because I, as an orc, am a rational agent. The orcs are intelligent. You can, when you hear them talk, it's not they're not smart. They're just evil. The orcs would be like, yeah, no, good point. I accept your rational argument for the foundation of morality. And I'm actually going to change my ways now because I was just raping and pillaging and having a lot of fun because I was an evil orc. But actually, I agree with you. And if that can't be done, then liberalism itself is at stake. That's their problem. If the Kantian morality that underpins liberalism it is proven, frankly, not to be true, because there is a race of sapients who are bred to be bad and have no choice and cannot be reasoned with, then the liberal project of assuming that every single sapient being is a rational moral actor goes out of the window. That's why this bothers them. That's why they're constantly going on about it. And that's why they've been doing it since 2002. But I mean, it goes on. I mean, like, there's never a time. This is just back in 2018 from Kat Timpf. And then you've got this in 2018 again from the New Statesman, which is, of course, a communist rag. But the thing I find funny about this is they're like, well, this isn't an important new front in the culture war. Well, yeah, there's not. Because, one, it's not new. B, you can't win this. It just doesn't matter. The orcs are irredeemably evil in all cases, and there's nothing you can do about that. And what's funny about this article, obviously I read it in advance, he agrees. Obviously, Tolkien's racist. But is this really where we need to be putting our energy? Well, good question. Good question. What you need to be doing with your energy is putting it into the Lord of the Rings prequel, The Rings of Power, which confronts this uncomfortable legacy. And you'll remember the orc family, the little orc family. For some reason, none of the other orcs have little orc families. But this little orc with his little orc wife and his little orc baby, and meow, like this, they're just looking for a place to set up a little orc farm and, tend to their little orc crops, maybe raise some orc chickens and get their orc harvest and live like hobbits. The orcs are just like the hobbits in the end, really, we promise you. And of course, that's just not true. It is just not true that the orcs are like hobbits. The orcs are made evil by an evil creator. Now, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this. I don't think black people were made evil by an evil creator. And so I don't think black people need to feel represented by orcs, because orcs are fundamentally, at no stage in their life cycle, human. They are not humans. This is a fantasy race. You do not need to feel represented by orcs. And if it wasn't for this fundamental conceit, philosophically, of liberalism, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because everyone would be like, well, that's not a human. Why would I judge myself by those standards? And why are you? Again, nobody on normal side of the human race is saying, oh, those orcs are a bit like black people. Nobody's saying that. They're saying, oh, right, they're an evil race of monsters, because they are, which is not what we say about black people. So why are you doing this to yourselves is the question really that's being asked here. But it's, like I said, it's because of liberal philosophy. If there is a sentient, sapient creature that cannot be reasoned with because it's intrinsically evil, then the very foundation of their morality goes out of the window. You're probably aware that at lotuscease.com, we spend a lot of time hammering down the point that actually modern liberal morality is not really a form of morality at all. What it is a form of damage mitigation. It is you follow the rules and you become a moral person. As in, a bad person breaks the rules. It's like, yeah, but that's not what makes a good person. Following the rules, not breaching the rules, does not a good person make. Because the problem with this is, like, a non-offending criminal, someone who is deeply evil, psychopathic, wishes nothing but the worst for everyone and does everything they can within the law to undermine others and to make their lives, to ruin them, to make their lives awful. Because the rules are the moral guidance in liberalism, if that person doesn't break any of the rules, then they are just as moral as that person who helps at an orphanage or goes down to the soup kitchen or donates all of his money to charity or whatever. In liberal philosophy, these people are just as moral as one another. And that's just not true. And the problem, and this is the problem entirely with modern morality, frankly. And then the liberals say, yeah, well, I mean, the guy who does break the law, well, I mean, society made him evil. Again, nonsense, right? Morality is affirmative, morality is positive, and morality is something you have to do. You have to do the right thing for the right reason to get the right result at the right time. And if you don't, you're not a good person. And that's why I got Stelios literally over a year ago. I was like, Stelios, I want a course that we can sell, a proper... Stelios is a PhD in philosophy. He was a university lecturer at the University of York in philosophy for many a year before he came to us. And I said to him, look, Stelios, can you write courses? And he was like, I'm full of courses. I was like, great. I would like a course that teaches us how to be good people. That a non-liberal person, when the spell of liberalism is broken, what do you need to do to actually be a good person? He's like, I can do that because I am actually an Athenian philosopher specialized in ancient Greece. And I know all about virtue ethics because that's what most of ancient Greek philosophy focused on. And so I got him to write me a course about it. And I've been through the course and it is superb. It is, and this is, it culminates in Aristotle and Plato, obviously. And it was this that really put me on my personal path to being a good person. So I personally feel like I am a decent person because I do certain things for other people throughout my day. And I come home at the end of the day and I think, right, I've done everything I was supposed to do. Everything is as good as I could have made it. And it was going through ancient Greek virtue ethics that got me to where I am now. And I feel fantastic because of it. I'm just completely at peace with myself. I feel like I'm flourishing. And I just feel like this is actually what right and wrong consist in. So if you want to go through the process that I've been through, and I remember I had to spend 5 years at university to do this, and I spent tens of thousands of my own money doing this. You can do it for a lot cheaper from a credentialed university lecturer and Athenian philosopher by going to courses.lotuses.com. I'll leave a link in the description. Honestly, I couldn't recommend it enough. My own children will be doing this course as they grow older. In fact, it's probably, in fact, about time for my oldest son to do this. Because this will just help them understand what it is to be a good person. It will help you understand. Because these are the things that have been denied to us from our liberal upbringings. It is not sufficient to not do harm. That is not what morality consists in. Anyway, link in the description. I'm very serious about that. And I will see you in the next video.